Hi everybody, Mrs. Wilson here, ready to read and start chapter 4 of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Chapter 4 is titled The Leaky Cauldron. We just finished up the night bus. The night bus is what brought Harry to Diagon Alley, where as soon as he got off the night bus, he was met by Cornelius Fudge, and it's been decided that he is going to stay at the Leaky Cauldron. There happens to be rooms for people who need to stay, kind of like an inn or I guess like a mini little hotel. And so this was the last part of the conversation that Harry was having with Cornelius Fudge. He had asked him about signing his permission form to go to Hogsmeade, and he said, "No, I'm very sorry, Harry, but as I'm not your parent or guardian." But there seems to be something else that Cornelius Fudge isn't telling Harry, and so that's just for us to kind of I think let's simmer, think it over, and try to figure out what could he possibly know that would impact Harry in such a big way. So Harry says, "But you're the Minister of Magic," said Harry eagerly. "If you gave me permission..." "No, I'm sorry, Harry, but rules are rules," said Fudge flatly. "Perhaps you'll be able to visit Hogsmeade next year. In fact, I think it's best if you don't..." "Yes, well, I'll be off. Enjoy your stay, Harry." And with a last smile and shake of Harry's hand, Fudge left the room. Tom now moved forward, beaming at Harry. "If you follow me, Mr. Potter," he said, "I've already taken your things up." Harry followed Tom up a handsome wooden staircase to a door with a brass number 11 on it, which Tom unlocked and opened for him. Inside was a very comfortable-looking bed, some highly polished oak furniture, a cheerfully crackling fire, and perched on top of the wardrobe... "Hedwig!" Harry gasped. The snowy owl clicked her beak and fluttered down onto Harry's arm. "Very smart owl you got there," chuckled Tom. "Arrived about 5 minutes after you did. If there's anything you need, Mr. Potter, don't hesitate to ask." He gave another bow and left. Harry sat on his bed for a long time, absent-mindedly stroking Hedwig. The sky outside the window was changing rapidly from deep velvety blue to cold steely gray, and then slowly to pink shot with gold. Harry could hardly believe that he'd left Privet Drive only a few hours ago, that he wasn't expelled, and that he was now facing 3 completely Dursley-free weeks. "It's been a very weird night, Hedwig," he yawned, and without even removing his glasses, he slumped back onto his pillows and fell asleep. And so now we're going to see what his stay at the Leaky Cauldron is like. We're going to split this chapter into 2 parts since it's particularly long, and so we'll get started right now. It took Harry several days to get used to his strange new freedom. Never before had he been able to get up whenever he wanted or eat whatever he fancied. He could even go wherever he pleased as long as it was in Diagon Alley, and as long as this long cobbled street was packed with the most fascinating wizardry shops in the world, Harry felt no desire to break his word to Fudge and stray back into the Muggle world. Harry ate breakfast each morning at the Leaky Cauldron, where he liked watching the other guests. Funny little witches from the country, up for a day's shopping, venerable-looking wizards arguing over the latest article in Transfiguration Today, wild-looking warlocks, raucous dwarfs, and once what looked suspiciously like a hag who ordered a plate of raw liver from behind a thick woolen balaclava. After breakfast, Harry would go out into the backyard, take out his wand, tap the 3rd brick from the left above the trash bin, and stand back as the archway into Diagon Alley opened in the wall. Harry spent the long sunny days exploring the shops and eating under the brightly colored umbrellas outside cafes, where his fellow diners were showing one another their purchases. "It's a lunoscope, old boy. No more messing around with the moon chart, see? Or else discussing the case of Sirius Black. Personally, I wouldn't let any of the children out alone until he's back in Azkaban." Harry didn't have to do his homework under the blankets by flashlight anymore. Now he could sit in the bright sunshine outside Florian Fortescue's ice cream parlor, finishing all his essays with occasional help from Florian Fortescue himself, who, apart from knowing a great deal about medieval witch burnings, gave Harry free Sundays every half hour. Once Harry had refilled his money bag with gold galleons, silver sickles, and bronze nuts from his vaulted Gringotts, he had to exercise a lot of self-control not to spend the whole lot at once. He had to keep reminding himself that he had 5 years to go at Hogwarts, and how it would feel to ask the Dursleys for money for spellbooks, to stop himself from buying a handsome set of solid gold gobstones, a wizarding game rather like marbles in which the stones squirt a nasty-smelling liquid into the other player's face when they lose a point. Terrible. He was sorely tempted, too, by the perfect moving model of the galaxy in a large glass ball, which meant he would never have to take another astronomy lesson. But the thing that tested Harry's resolution most appeared in his favorite shop, Quality Quidditch Supplies. A week after he'd arrived at the Leaky Cauldron, curious to know what the crowd in the shop was staring at, Harry edged his way inside and squeezed in among the excited witches and wizards until he glimpsed a newly erected podium on which was mounted the most magnificent broom he had ever seen in his life. "Just come out, prototype," a square-jawed wizard was telling his companion. "It's the fastest broom in the world, isn't it, Dad?" squeaked a boy younger than Harry who was swinging off his father's arm. "Irish International Slides just put in an order for 7 of these beauties," the proprietor of the shop told the crowd, "and they're favorites for the World Cup." A large witch in front of Harry moved, and he was able to read the sign next to the broom. The Firebolt. This state-of-the-art racing broom sports a streamlined, superfine handle of ash, treated with a diamond-hard polish and hand-numbered with its own registration number. Chili came by to say hi. Each individually selected birch twig in the broomtail has been honed to the aerodynamic perfection, giving to the Firebolt's unsurpassable balance and pinpoint precision. The Firebolt has an acceleration of 150 miles an hour in 10 seconds and incorporates an unbreakable braking charm. Price on request. Price on request. Harry didn't like to think how much gold the Firebolt would cost. He had never wanted anything as much in his whole life, but he had never lost a Quidditch match on his Nimbus 2000, and what was the point in emptying his Gringotts vault for the Firebolt when he had a very good broom already? Harry didn't ask for the price, but he returned almost every day after that just to look at the Firebolt. There were, however, things that Harry needed to buy. He went to the apothecary to replenish his store of potions ingredients, and as his school robes were now several inches too short in the arm and leg, he visited Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions and bought new ones. Most important of all, he had to buy his new school books, which would include those for his 2 new subjects, Care of Magical Creatures and Divination. Harry got a surprise as he looked in at the bookshop window. Instead of the usual display of gold embossed spellbooks the size of paving slabs, there was a large iron cage behind the glass that held about 100 copies of The Monster Book of Monsters. Do you remember this book? It was his gift from Hagrid. Torn pages were flying everywhere as the books grappled with each other, locked together in furious wrestling matches and snapping aggressively. Harry pulled his book list out of his pocket and consulted it for the first time. The Monster Book of Monsters was listed as the required book for Care of Magical Creatures. Now, Harry understood why Hagrid had said it would come in useful. He felt relieved. He'd been wondering whether Hagrid wanted help with some terrifying new pet. As Harry entered Flourish and Blotts, the manager came hurrying toward him. "Hogwarts," he said abruptly. "Come to get your new books?" "Yes," said Harry. "I need—" "Get out of the way," said the manager impatiently, brushing Harry aside. He drew on a pair of very thick gloves, picked up a large knobbly walking stick, and proceeded toward the door of the monster's book cage. "Hang on," said Harry quickly. "I've already got one of those." "Have you?" A look of enormous relief spread over the manager's face. "Thank heavens for that. I've been bitten 5 times already this morning." A loud ripping noise rent the air. 2 of the monster books had seized a third and were pulling it apart. Stop it, cried the manager, poking the walking stick through the bars and knocking the books apart. "I'm never stocking them again. Never. It's been bedlam. I thought we'd seen the worst when we bought 200 copies of the Invisible Book of Invisibility, cost a fortune, and we never found them." That's funny. "Well, is there anything else I can help you with?" "Yes," said Harry, looking down his book list. "I need Unfogging the Future by Cassandra Voblatsky." "Ah, starting divination, are you?" said the manager, stripping off his gloves and leading Harry into the back of the shop, where there was a corner devoted to fortune-telling. A small table was stacked with volumes such as Predicting the Unpredictable. Insulate yourself against shocks and broken balls when fortunes turn foul. "Here you are," said the manager, who had climbed a set of steps to take down a thick black-bound book, Unfogging the Future. Very good guide to all your basic fortune-telling methods. Palmistry, crystal balls, bird entrails. But Harry wasn't listening. His eyes had fallen on another book, which was among a display on a small table. Death Omens. What to do when you know the worst is coming. Oh, I wouldn't read that if I were you, said the manager lightly, looking to see what Harry was staring at. You'll start seeing death omens everywhere. It's enough to frighten anyone to death. But Harry continued to stare at the front cover of the book. It showed a black dog as large as a bear with gleaming eyes. It looked oddly familiar. Oh my goodness, what? The manager pressed Unfogging the Future into Harry's hands. Anything else, he said? Yes, said Harry, tearing his eyes away from the dogs and dazedly consulting the book list. I need Intermediate Transfiguration in the Standard Book of Spells, Grade 3. Harry emerged from Flourish and Blotts 10 minutes later with his new books under his arms and made his way back to the Leaky Cauldron, hardly noticing where he was going and bumping into several people. He tramped up the stairs in his room, went inside, and tipped his books onto his bed. Somebody had been in to tidy. The windows were open and the sun was pouring inside. Harry could hear the buses rolling by in the unseen Muggle street behind him and the sound of the invisible crowd below in Diagon Alley. He caught sight of himself in the mirror over the basin. It can't have been a death omen, he told his reflection defiantly. I was panicking when I saw that thing in Magnolia Crescent. It was probably just a stray dog. He raised his hand automatically and tried to make his hair lie flat. You're fighting a losing battle there, dear, said his mirror in a wheezy voice. As the days slipped by, Harry started looking wherever he went for a sign of Ron or Hermione. Plenty of Hogwarts students were arriving in Diagon Alley now. With the start of the term so near, Harry met Seamus Finnegan and Dean Thomas, his fellow Gryffindors, in Quality Quidditch Supplies, where they too were ogling the firebolt. He also ran into the real Neville Longbottom, a round-faced, forgetful boy outside Flourish and Blotts. Harry didn't stop to chat. Neville appeared to have mislaid his book list and was being told off by his very formidable-looking grandmother. Harry hoped she never found out that he'd pretended to be Neville while on the run from the Ministry of Magic. Harry woke on the last day of the holiday thinking that he would at least meet Ron and Hermione tomorrow on the Hogwarts Express. He got up, dressed, went for a last look at the firebolt, and was just wondering where he'd have lunch when someone yelled his name and he turned. Harry! Harry! They were there, both of them, sitting outside Florian Fortescue's ice cream parlor. Ron looking incredibly freckly, Hermione very brown, both waving frantically at him. Finally, said Ron, grinning at Harry as he sat down, we went to the Leaky Cauldron, but they said you'd left, and we went to Flourish and Blotts and Madame Malkin's, and... I got all my school stuff last week, Harry explained. And how come you knew I'm staying at the Leaky Cauldron? Dad, said Ron simply. Mr. Weasley, who worked at the Ministry of Magic, would of course have heard the whole story of what had happened to Aunt Marge. Did you really blow up your aunt, Harry? Said Hermione in a very serious voice. I didn't mean to, said Harry, while Ron roared with laughter. I just lost control. It's not funny, Ron, said Hermione sharply. Honestly, I'm amazed Harry wasn't expelled. So am I, admitted Harry. Forget expelled, I thought I was going to be arrested. He looked at Ron. Your dad doesn't know why Fudge let me off, does he? Probably because it's you, isn't it? Shrugged Ron, still chuckling. Famous Harry Potter and all that. I'd hate to see what the Ministry'd do to me if I blew up an aunt. Mind you, they'd have to dig me up first because Mum would have killed me. Anyway, you can ask Dad yourself this evening. We're staying at the Leaky Cauldron tonight, too. So you can come to King's Cross with us tomorrow. Hermione's there as well. Hermione nodded, beaming. Mum and Dad dropped me off this morning with all my Hogwarts things. Excellent, said Harry happily. So, have you got all your new books and stuff? Look at this, said Ron, pulling a long, thin box out of a bag and opening it. Brand new wand. 14 inches, willow, containing 1 unicorn tail hair. And we got all our books. He pointed at a large bag under his chair. What about those monster books, eh? The assistant nearly cried when we said we wanted 2. What's all that, Hermione? Harry asked, pointing at not 1 but 3 bulging bags in the chair next to hers. Well, I'm taking more new subjects than you, aren't I? Said Hermione. Those are my books for arithmancy, care of magical creatures, divination, study of ancient runes, muggle studies. What are you doing muggle studies for? Said Ron, rolling his eyes at Harry. You're muggle born. Your mum and dad are muggles. You already know all about muggles. But it'll be fascinating to study them from the wizarding point of view, said Hermione earnestly. Are you planning to eat or sleep at all this year, Hermione? Asked Harry, while Ron snickered. Hermione ignored them. I've still got 10 galleons, she said, checking her purse. It's my birthday in September, and Mum and Dad gave me some money to get myself an early birthday present. How about a nice book? said Ron innocently. No, I don't think so, said Hermione composedly. I really want an owl. I mean, Harry's got Hedwig and you've got Errol. I haven't, said Ron. Errol's a family owl. All I've got is Scabbers. He pulled his pet rat out of his pocket. And I want to get him checked over, he added, placing Scabbers on the table in front of them. I don't think Egypt agreed with him. Scabbers was looking thinner than usual, and there was definitely droop to his whiskers. There's a magical creature shop just over there, said Harry, who knew Diagon Alley very well by now. You could see if they've got anything for Scabbers, and Hermione can get her owl. So they paid for their ice cream and crossed the street to the magical menagerie. There wasn't much room inside. Every inch of the wall was hidden by cages. It was smelly and very noisy because the occupants of these cages were all squeaking, squawking, jabbering, or hissing. The witch behind the counter was already advising a wizard on the care of double-ended newts, so Harry, Ron, and Hermione waited, examining the cages. A pair of enormous purple toads sat gulping wetly and feasting on dead blowflies. A gigantic tortoise with jewel-encrusted shell was glittering near the window. Poisonous orange snails were oozing slowly up the side of their glass tank, and a fat white rabbit kept changing into a silk top hat and back again with a loud popping noise. There were cats of every color, a noisy cage of ravens, a basket of funny custard-colored fur balls that were humming loudly, and on the counter, a vast cage of sleek black rats that were playing some sort of skipping game using their long, bald tails. The double-ended newt wizard left, and Ron approached the counter. It's my rat, he told the witch. He's been a bit off color ever since I brought him back from Egypt. Bang him on the counter, said the witch, pulling a pair of heavy black spectacles out of her pocket. Ron lifted Scabbers out of his inside pocket and placed him next to the cage of his fellow rats, who stopped their skipping tricks and scuffled to the wire for a better look. Like nearly everything Ron owned, Scabbers the rat was second-hand. He'd once belonged to Ron's brother Percy, and a bit battered. Next to the glossy rats in the cage, he looked especially woebegone. Said the witch, picking up Scabbers. How old is this rat? Don't know, said Ron. Quite old. He used to belong to my brother. What powers does he have? Said the witch, examining Scabbers closely. The truth was that Scabbers had never shown the faintest trace of interesting powers. The witch's eyes moved from Scabbers' tattered left ear to his front paw, which had a toe missing, and tutted loudly. He's been through the mill, this one, she said. He was like that when Percy gave him to me, said Ron defensively. An ordinary common or garden rat like this can't be expected to live longer than 3 years or so, said the witch. Now, if you were looking for something a bit more hard-wearing, you might like one of these. She indicated the black rats, who promptly started skipping again. Ron muttered, show-offs. Well, if you don't want a replacement, you can try this rat tonic, said the witch, reaching under the counter and bringing out a small red bottle. Okay, said Ron. How much? Ouch! Ron buckled as something huge and orange came soaring from the top of the highest cage, landed on his head, and then propelled itself spitting madly at Scabbers. And unfortunately, that's where we have to leave off, because that's exactly halfway through the chapter. But what in the world could be attacking Ron and landing on his head? We don't know. So we'll find out tomorrow. In the meantime, have the most magnificent Monday, and I shall see you tomorrow for a terrific Tuesday. Take care. Can't wait.